Well, hello everybody and welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to make some Tangzhong hot cross buns. So these are going to be hot cross buns with some sultanas and some spices and some mixed peel in them. But I'm going to use the Tangzhong method, which is where you mix some of the flour with liquid and you heat that up and to 65 degrees Celsius, about 150 Fahrenheit. And then you allow it to cool down, and that has the effect of allowing more liquid to be used in the recipe, and it makes a much softer bread dough basically. So I've got recipes on the blog and on the YouTube channel already for hot cross buns, but this is just a slight variation and they should be very, very nice. And I'm doing it now just in time for Easter. So I'll go on to the ingredients, and to start off I have 300 grams, 2 cups, based on scooping packed flour into a 250 milliliter cup of bread flour. I have 120 milliliters, half a cup of milk, 42 grams, 3 tablespoons of softened unsalted butter, 100 grams, about 2/3 of a cup of sultanas, about 150 milliliters or 160 milliliters, 2/3 of a cup of hot black tea, 1 medium egg, which would be large in the USA, 25 grams, 2 tablespoons of sugar, 15 grams, 1 tablespoon of chopped mixed peel, 3 grams, half a teaspoon of salt, 5 grams, 1 3/4 teaspoons of instant yeast, 5 grams, 2 teaspoons of dried milk powder, 2 grams, 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, and 3 grams, 1 teaspoon of allspice. So that's the basic dough, but for the Tanzhong I also have 90 milliliters, 6 tablespoons of milk, and 18 grams, 2 tablespoons of bread flour. So that's the ingredients for the buns, and the first thing I'm going to do is to pour my tea into my sultanas, and I'm going to leave that to soak, and then I will drain the tea off before I use the sultanas. So I'll set that to one side, and I'll set the remaining ingredients to one side for the moment and tell you about the ingredients for making the crosses on the top. And the mixture for making the crosses on the top consists of 50 grams, 1/3 of a cup of plain flour, 8 grams, 1 tablespoon of icing sugar, and 60 milliliters or 1/4 of a cup of milk. I'm also going to use 40 grams, 2 tablespoons of apricot jam, which I shall warm up and use to glaze the top of the buns once they're baked. And I will use 1 more egg for brushing an egg wash over the top of the buns before they bake. So again, I'll set those to one side. I don't need any of those 5 ingredients for several hours yet. And the first thing I'm going to do towards making the buns is to make our Tanzhong. So you can do this in the microwave, but I'm going to do it on the top of the stove, and I'm going to put my 18 grams of flour with my 90 milliliters of milk into a saucepan, and I'm just going to give those a mix around. And then I'm going to put that onto the heat, and I'm going to gently heat it, stirring the entire time until the mixture thickens and it reaches that temperature of 65 degrees Celsius that I mentioned. And I'm not going to worry if there's a couple of lumps of flour. They will dissolve as the mixture thickens. So I'll put that onto the heat, and as I'm heating that, I'm going to stir it. And as you can see, that's already beginning to thicken. And I have that on a very low heat now. I don't need to heat it so much that the liquid evaporates. So that's hot enough. In fact, I think it's probably more than 65 now. Yes, it's gone up to 70 degrees. So I'm going to turn the heat off, and I'm going to put that into a bowl. And I think my recording stopped. So I've put my Tangzhong into a bowl, and I've got some plastic wrap which I press down onto the surface like that. And then once it's on the surface so that a skin doesn't form, I'm going to leave that to cool completely. And that will take quite a while. You can leave it overnight if you want to, and you can put it in the fridge to chill if you want to. But once it is completely cool and my my sultanas have soaked nicely, I'll come back and we'll go on to make the dough for the hot cross buns. My Tangzhong is now completely cooled. It's been a few hours since I made it. So I'm going to proceed now to make the dough for the hot cross buns. And to do that, I'm going to put my milk, that's 120 millilitres, into the bowl of my stand mixer, and I'm going to add into that my yeast and my 25 grams of sugar and my allspice, cinnamon and dry milk powder, as well as my medium egg, and then the Tanzhong as well. And I'm simply going to mix those together a little bit. And that's good enough. The Tanzhong is clumping, but that will break down as we add the flour. So I'm going to put in about half of my flour. And I'm just going to mix that until that's combined. And then I'll add the remaining flour and my half a teaspoon of salt. And if you think that's a strange colour, I'm using pink Himalayan salt because that's what I have. And I'll mix that until that turns into a shaggy dough. So that has turned into a shaggy dough quite quickly. So I'm going to knead that for as long as it takes to make it smooth and quite stretchy. And I'll let you know how long that takes once I've done it. So that is now, it's tacky, that dough, but it's quite smooth. So what I'm going to do is I've drained off my sultanas, and I'm going to put those into the bowl, and I'm going to put my little bit of mixed peel in as well, and I'm going to knead that some more until they're fully incorporated. And with those mixed in quite nicely, I'm going to put my softened butter in as well, and then I'm going to knead it again until that is fully incorporated, and that will loosen the dough dramatically, and it'll be, I imagine, a very slick and sticky dough. So far I've kneaded my dough for 10 minutes. So I've kneaded that for a further 8 minutes, and it's a very sticky dough, but it should be ready now. And usually I would proof the dough in this bowl, but I'm going to transfer it into another bowl just for ease. So I'll do that now. So I've put that into another bowl, and I've lightly greased this bowl. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply cover that and allow it to proof until it's just about doubled in size, and that will take an hour in a warm place basically. So I'm just going to cover it like that and let it proof, and I'll come back in an hour and we will divide it into 12 pieces ready for a second proof. And at that stage I will have my baking tray with some parchment paper ready to take the buns. So I've taken my dough out and I've put it onto a floured surface, and I've started to divide it into about 12 equal pieces. It's very sticky, so that's why I've floured it basically. And so my pieces weigh about 70 grams each, or thereabouts. So I'm going to take each piece and, keeping my fingers floured, I'm going to form it into a ball, and I'm just going to roll it round like that, and I'm going to put it onto my baking tray. And I'm going to leave a little gap between each one, which will then join up as the dough rises for a second time. And with the 12 buns rolled like that, I should say, if there's a seam underneath, you need to squeeze the seam together to close it up, but I didn't seem to have that problem. So I'm going to cover that with a little bit of greased plastic wrap, and I'm going to leave the buns to proof until they've risen up, and they're quite puffy, and they should join up a little bit. If they don't join up completely, it doesn't matter. And once that's happened, I will preheat my oven to 180 degrees Celsius. That's 160 Celsius with a fan, 350 Fahrenheit. And I'll come back and we'll make the preparation to put the crosses on the top, and we'll do that. We'll brush the top with some beaten egg, put the crosses on, and we'll bake the hot cross buns. With my buns rising. They haven't joined up, some of them are touching, but they'll rise more in the oven. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make the paste that will form the crosses. So I'm going to put my flour and my little bit of icing sugar into a bowl. I'll just give that a little mix around. The icing sugar tends to clump, so I'll break up those lumps a little bit. And then I'm going to add in my milk. I'm simply going to stir that through to make a paste. And it needs to be thick enough that it will hold its shape a little bit once it's piped onto the hot cross buns. And that's good enough. So I'm going to put that into a piping bag. I'll just leave that to one side for a moment. And then I'm going to simply brush beaten egg onto the surface of each of the buns. Like that. And then we can pipe the crosses on as well. And so I'm simply going to pipe a line over each of them. And then in the other direction as well. Like that. And they're ready to go into the oven. So I'll put those into the oven and I'll bake them for about 22 minutes until they rise up and they colour nicely on the top. And then I'll take them out of the oven, and at that time I will have heated up my couple of tablespoons of apricot jam so that I can brush that over the top. So once these have baked and I've taken them out of the oven, I'll come back and we'll put the apricot jam on the top, and then we'll leave them to cool down before I have a taste of them. So I baked my hot cross buns for 22 minutes and they rose up quite nicely, and I've heated my jam, so I'm just going to brush some of the jam over the top of each of the buns. And they're still hot. And now I'm going to leave those to cool down. And once they're cool, I'll come back and I'll have a taste of one so that I can tell you what they're like on the inside as well. And these are ideal for eating on Good Friday morning, which is when traditionally they were eaten. So I'll be back once these are cool and I'll have a taste. So I let the hot cross buns cool down and I've sliced one and put some butter on it. So I'll show you what it looks like. So this is the inside of the bun. This is actually the top, and it's nice and soft, as you can see. And hot cross buns tend to be quite dense, but because of the Tangzhong, these are slightly lighter in texture. I can see that already. And I'll have a taste of this one with the butter on. Usually I would cut it open and toast it, but I'll have a taste just as it is. Have another go. It's got some lovely spicing in it, nice soft texture. I can taste the sultanas and that little bit of mixed peel. So this is very, very good, and I should say you can put other things in. In the shops these days they do blueberry hot cross buns, chocolate chip hot cross buns, apple ones, pear ones, whatever you can think of that can go into a piece of bread dough, they tend to put it in. So you can mix and match. You can use dried mixed fruit, so you'll get raisins, sultanas, currants and chopped peel all in together. And these are very good. As I said, traditionally hot cross buns are eaten in the UK on Good Friday. So if you're in an area where you can't even buy them, perhaps you might think of making them. So that's going to be it for this recipe. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there'll be an eye that you can click on, and that will take you to a link for the recipe, and I'll put a link below the video as well. And I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.